Deva Narayana Namaskritya Narancha Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutiri Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevai Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 7, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, text 40 onwards. Vrindavan jaite Prabhu rahila kashite, Mayavadi gana tare lahila nindite. When Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was passing through Varanasi on his way to Vrindavan, so when he came from Jagannath Puri, so on the way to Vrindavan, he passed through Varanasi. The Mayavadi sannyasi philosophers blasphemed against him in many ways. While preaching Krishna consciousness with full vigor, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu faced many Mayavadi philosophers. Similarly, Prabhu said, we are also facing opposing swamis, yogis, impersonalists, scientists, philosophers, and other mental speculators. And by the grace of Lord Krishna, we successfully defeat all of them without difficulty. So this is how heavy Prabhupada was in his preaching. Heavy, but at the same time, he was very compassionate. That really attracted people to him. Sannyasi haya kare gayana nachan, na kare vedanta bhat kare sankirtan. The blasphemer said, although a sannyasi, he does not take interest in the study of Vedanta, but instead always engages in chanting and dancing in sankirtan. So in Varanasi, when he met Prakashanand Saraswati and his followers, so this was their argument. He is always dancing and chanting. He doesn't sit down and study Vedanta. According to them, sannyasi means you study Vedanta and think more and more and more on those lines. Fortunately or unfortunately, we also meet such Mayavadis who criticize our method of chanting and accuse us of not being interested in study. They do not know that we have translated volumes and volumes of books into English and that the students in our temples regularly study them in the morning, afternoon, and in the evening. We are writing and printing books and our students study them and distribute them all over the world. No Mayavadi school can present as many books as we have. Nevertheless, they accuse us of not being fond of study. Such accusations are completely false. But although we study, we do not study the nonsense of the Mayavadis. Prabhupada is amazing. And also, one thing I have noticed whenever I got into arguments with some Mayavadi, then when I started quoting, then they just back off. No, you are not right. You are wrong. You are wrong. I mean, if I am not, then just give me some quotation from somewhere which proves you are right. But that they don't have. But they just don't want to understand the real philosophy. One person I was arguing with on Facebook only. And he said, oh, I don't believe in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. I only follow Vedas. I said, okay, give me something from Vedas that you follow, that what you're talking about is right. He could not. He didn't have any access. And he asked me to give meaning of a verse from Bhagavad Gita. And I was telling him, give me something from Vedas, what you're talking about. No, you give me Bhagavad Gita. So I just copied from Prabhupada's book and sent him the quotation. Oh, you're just quoting ISKCON books. I said, I follow ISKCON, so I have every right to quote that book. Now you tell me something. Then he just blocked me. He just ran away. So, but we have to be thorough in our study, in our conviction, actually. Should be thorough. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm thorough. No, I don't know everything. But at least I can search from Prabhupada's books. Mayavadi sannyasis neither chant nor dance. Their technical objection is that this method of chanting and dancing is called Tauryatrika, which indicates that a sannyasi should completely avoid such activities and engage his time in the study of Vedanta. Actually, such men do not understand what is meant by Vedanta. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vedesya sarve rahame vedya, Vedantakrit vedvid evachaham. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta and I am the knower of the Vedas. Lord Krishna is the actual compiler of Vedanta, and whatever he speaks is Vedanta philosophy. Although they are lacking the knowledge of Vedanta presented by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the transcendental form of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Mayavadis are very proud of their study. Foreseeing the bad effects of the presenting Vedanta philosophy in a perverted way, Srila Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam as a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Srimad Bhagavatam is Bhashya Ayam Brahma Sutra. In other words, all the Vedanta philosophy in the aphorisms or in the summary forms of the Brahma Sutra is thoroughly described in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this, it's not that Prabhupada is saying that, it's Mahaprabhu also said, Srimad Bhagavatam is natural commentary on Vedanta. And Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, he also said that. So we just follow that. Thus, the factual propounder of Vedanta philosophy is a Krishna-conscious person who always engages in reading and understanding the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and teaching the purport of these books to the entire world. The Mayavadis are very proud of having monopolized the Vedanta philosophy, but devotees have their own commentaries on Vedanta, such as Srimad Bhagavatam, and others written by the Acharyas. The commentary of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is a Govinda Bhashya. If you remember, I told about this. Govinda Bhashya written by Baldev Vidyabhushan. The Mayavadis' accusation that devotees do not study Vedanta is false. The Mayavadis do not know that chanting, dancing, and preaching, the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam, called Bhagavad Dharma, are the same as studying Vedanta. And not just same as, it goes much beyond that, studying Vedanta. Since they think that reading Vedanta philosophy is the only function of a sannyasi, and they did not find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu engaged in such direct study, they criticize the Lord. Srimad Shankaracharya has given special stress to the study of Vedanta philosophy. Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramantaha Kopi Namantaha Khalo Bhagyavanta. A sannyasi accepting the renounce order very strictly and wearing nothing more than a loincloth or kopin should always enjoy the philosophical statements in the Vedanta Sutra. Such a person in the renounce order is to be considered very fortunate. The Mayavadis in Varanasi blasphemed Lord Chaitanya because his behavior did not follow these principles. See, this is our conditioning. We try to judge everybody according to the standards we think are the best. Everybody does that in the material world. That's why it's called a relative world. It's not absolute. It's a material world. It's a relative world. According to my conception, my viewpoint, I try to judge others. And then the blasphemy comes afterwards. Lord Chaitanya, however, bestowed his mercy upon these Mayavadi sannyasis and delivered them by means of his Vedanta discourses with Prakashanam Saraswati and Sarvam Bhattacharya. So we'll read about that in detail later on. It's a wonderful discourse, and how and this is the beauty of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He did not get angry with with these blasphemers, and he took a very humble position in both the cases, although he is Supreme Lord himself, he's Krishna. But he took a very, very humble position. And because of his taking such a humble position, see, everybody in philosophy, if we understand philosophical point of view, everybody has a defense shield around him. Means he just wants to remain in that shield. He doesn't want to open up easily to anything new. But what Mahaprabhu did, by his humility, by his beauty, obviously, he was very, very attractive. And of course, he was sannyasi also at that time when he spoke with Prakashanand and Saraswati and Sarvam Bhattacharya. Their defense shield got lowered. And then when Mahaprabhu spoke, they accepted it. In our case, so this is a very important point for preaching. Prabhupada could do whatever he could do. He was in a different plane altogether. We cannot do that. Prabhupada could call people fools and rascals, but they would still follow him because they understood he is very compassionate. He is our real well-wisher. They understood that. In our case, when we preach, it's not there. That charisma is not there. That purity is not there. Of course, we don't have purity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu either. So what do we do? So we have to take a very humble position when we talk to anybody about Krishna consciousness. Everybody's defense shield is up and they just don't want to listen. That's the first thing. They don't want to listen. They're very much comfortable with whatever life they're following, and that's it. So only through our humility, through our service mood, they can open up. They can. Maybe they will or won't, I don't know. They can. And then whatever little bit words come out of our mouths, that can help. And whatever we should pray to Prabhupada all the time while preaching, so that somehow the right words come out of my mouth that can help others. That should be the need. But how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu transformed their hearts of these people, it's amazing. They were staunch Mayavadis. Murkha sannyasi nij dharma nahi jane, bhavuk haiya fere bhavukera sahani. This Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is an illiterate sannyasi. That's what they said. And therefore does not know his real function. Guided only by his sentiments, he wanders about in the company of other sentimentalists. Foolish Mayavadis, not knowing that the Krishna consciousness movement is based on a solid philosophy of transcendental science, superficially conclude that those who dance and chant do not have philosophical knowledge. Those who are Krishna conscious actually have full knowledge of the essence of Vedanta philosophy, for they study the real commentary on the Vedanta philosophy, Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the actual words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as found in Bhagavad Gita as it is. After understanding the Bhagavad philosophy or Bhagavad Dharma, they become fully spiritually conscious or Krishna conscious, and therefore the chanting and dancing is not material but is on the spiritual platform. Although everyone admires the ecstatic chanting and dancing of the devotees, who are therefore popularly known as the Hare Krishna people, Mayavadis cannot appreciate these activities because of their who are fond of knowledge. Of course, they cannot appreciate. And also because their hearts are not opened up yet to appreciate these activities of devotees. Ei sabu shunya prabhu hase mane mane upeksha kariya karo na kaila sambhashane. Hearing all this blasphemy, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu merely smiled to himself, rejected all these accusations, and did not talk with the Mayavadis. As Krishna conscious devotees, we do not like to converse with Mayavadi philosophers, simply to waste valuable time. But whenever there is an opportunity, we impress our philosophy upon them with great vigor and success. So whenever there's an opportunity, we try. Otherwise, as Rupa Goswami says in Nectar of Instruction, the four kinds of people we deal, or Madhyamadikari deals differently. Ishwar tadadineshu, balisheshu, dvishatsucha. So with Ishwar, with Krishna, there's prem. Tadadineshu, there's a matri, friendship, with devotees. Balisheshu, those who are innocent, we try to preach, try to help. Prem matri kripa, or we are compassionate, and upeksha for envious people. But still, this is the service of a devotee to preach. But with Mayavadis, it takes time. So one has to be, just as I said, we just try to be an instrument in the hands of Prabhupada to preach. Then we can preach. Upeksha karya kaila mathura agama, mathura dekhiya puna kaila agama. Thus neglecting the blasphemy of the Varanasi Mayavadis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu proceeded to Mathura, and after visiting Mathura, he returned to meet the situation. So he came back to Varanasi. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not talk with the Mayavadi philosophers when he first visited Varanasi, but he returned there from Mathura to convince them of the real purport of Vedanta. Kashite Lekhak Shudra Shri Chandra Shekhar Tar Ghare Rahila Prabhu Swatantra Ishwara. This time Lord Chaitanya stayed at the house of Chandrasekhar, although he was regarded as a Shudra or Kayastha, for the Lord, as a Supreme Personality of Godhead, is completely independent. Lord Chaitanya stayed at the house of Chandrasekhar, a clerk, although a sannyasi is not supposed to reside in a Shudra's house. 500 years ago, especially in Bengal, it was a system that people who were born in the family of Brahmins were accepted as Brahmins, and that all those who took birth in other families, even the higher castes, namely the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, were considered Shudras or non-Brahmins. So yes, this caste system was very heavy 500 years, even now, but now it is, people don't follow this that much, because everybody goes to everybody's house and meets and stays. This becomes prominent, the caste system, when it's time for elections, or it's time for taking admission or going through some competitive exams. Other than that, hardly anybody follows. Therefore, although Sri Chandrasekhar was a clerk from Kaya's family in Upper India, he was considered a Shudra. Similarly, Vaishyas, especially those of the Suvarna Vanik community, were accepted as Shudras in Bengal. And even the Vaidyas, who were generally physicians, were also considered Shudras. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, however, did not accept this artificial principle, which was introduced in the society by self-interested men, and later the Kayats, Vaidyas, and Vaniks all began to accept the sacred thread, despite objections from the so-called Brahmins. And actually, why Prabhupada mentioned this Vaishyas, especially those of the Suvarna Vanik community, Prabhupada came in that. family or in that lineage. Before the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Suvarna Vanik class was condemned by Ballal Sen, who was then the king of Bengal, due to a personal grudge. In Bengal, the Suvarna Vanik class are always very rich, for they are bankers and dealers in gold and silver. Therefore, Ballal Sen used to borrow money from a Suvarna Vanik banker. Ballal Sen's bankruptcy later obliged a Suvarnavanik banker to stop advancing money to him, and thus Ballal Sen became angry and condemned the entire Suvarnavanik society as belonging to the Shudra community. He tried to induce the Brahmins not to accept the Suvarnavaniks as followers of the instructions of Vedas under the Brahminical directions. But although some Brahmins approved of Ballal Sen's actions, others did not. So the Brahmins also became divided amongst themselves, and those who supported the Suvarnavanik class were rejected from the Brahmin community. At the present day, the same biases are still being followed. So this is how it goes on. So there are many Vaishnava families in Bengal whose members, although not actually born Brahmins, act as acharyas by initiating disciples and offering the sacred thread as enjoined in the Vaishnava Tantras. For example, in the families of Thakur Raghunandan Acharya, Thakur Krishnadas, Navani Hoda, and Rasikanand Deva, a disciple of Shyamanand Prabhu, the sacred thread ceremony is performed as it is for the caste Goswamis. And this system has continued for the past 300 to 400 years. The accepting disciples born in Brahmin families, they are bona fide spiritual masters who have the facility to worship the Shaligram Shila, who is worshipped with the deity. As of this writing, Shaligram Shila worship has not yet been introduced in our Krishna consciousness movement. But soon it will be introduced in all our temples as an essential function of Archana Marga, or deity worship. So as of this writing, yes, Prabhupada wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita probably sometime in 72 or 73, something like that. So later, slowly, he introduced all the other aspects of deity worship. But this caste system, it's just crazy. It just should not have been done. But as Prabhupada said, people introduce it because of their self-interest. But it has taken a huge toll on India and the social system of India. Tapana Mishra Ghare Bhiksha Nirvahan Sanyasira Shange Nahi Mane Nimantran. As a matter of principle, Lord Chaitanya regularly accepted his food at the house of Tapan Mishra. He never mixed with other sannyasis, nor did he accept invitations from them. This exemplary behavior of Lord Chaitanya definitely proves that a Vaishnava sannyasi cannot accept invitations from Mayavadi sannyasis or intimately mix with them. So he would stay at the house of Chandrasekhar and accept food at the house of Tapan Mishra. and there was another Maharashtriya Brahman. His name is not mentioned, but these were the three people Mahaprabhu regularly met with. And actually, I went to Banaras a few years back, and then I wanted to go to all these places, what is mentioned. So those places, those houses are still there. And this house of Chandrasekhar, where Mahaprabhu stayed, I went there. It's a very small house, not a big house, very small house, and it's owned by somebody now. But that person would not allow me to take pictures. I don't know why. What was he afraid of? I didn't understand that. But as soon as I took out my mobile to take pictures, I said, no picture. If you take pictures, I'm going to throw you out. Okay. Sanatan Gosai Ashi Tahai Milila Tar Shiksha Lagi Prabhu Dumas Rahi. When Sanatan Goswami came from Bengal, he met Lord Chaitanya at the house of Tapan Mishra, where Lord Chaitanya remained continuously for 2 months to teach him devotional service. Lord Chaitanya taught Sanatan Goswami in the line of disciplic succession. Sanatan Goswami was a very learned scholar in Sanskrit and other languages. But until instructed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he did not write anything about Vaishnava behavior. His very famous book, Hari Bhakti Vilas, which gives directions for Vaishnava candidates, was written completely in compliance with the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this Hari Bhakti Vilas, Sri Sanatana Goswami gives definite instructions that by proper initiation, by a bona fide spiritual master, one can immediately become a Brahman. So very nice verse Sanatana Goswami has quoted there. In this connection, he says, Yatha kanchan tam yati kansyam rasa vidhanata tatha diksha vidhanena dvijatvam jayate nrina. As bell metal is turned to gold when mixed with mercury in an alchemical process, so one who is properly trained and initiated by a bona fide spiritual master immediately becomes a Brahman. So, immediately. And this Brahman is not just in namesake. Properly trained means then he develops those qualities of a Brahman. Sometimes those born in Brahman families protest this, but they have no strong arguments against this principle. By the grace of Krishna and his devotee, one's life can change. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by the words Jahati, Bandham and Shuddhati. Jahati Bandham indicates that a living entity is conditioned by a particular type of body. The body is certainly an impediment, but one who associates with a pure devotee and follows his instructions can avoid this impediment and become a regular Brahman by initiation under his strict guidance. So, but one thing for sure, a person who becomes a Brahman by initiation and training, he has those qualities of Brahman in him. He might be born in a Shudra family, but he definitely has those qualities. See, the example Sanatana Goswami has given, a bell metal combined with mercury in certain conditions can become gold. But only bell metal can, not iron will. So persons who take this initiation or who go through the training, are willing to go through the training, they already have those qualities. So, as Krishna says, Chatur Varnya Maya system, Guna Karma Vibhakasha. They have the gun and then they do the activities. Activities means also training. So they have those things. And then they should be accepted as a Brahman. No doubt. Just like people always criticize scriptures and criticize especially Dronacharya for not accepting Eklavya as his disciple. And when Eklavya learned archery on his own, although he accepted mentally Dronacharya as his guru, Dronacharya still asked for the right hand thumb of Eklavya. Why? Very, very controversial. Some of these things are controversial because we don't understand. Eklavya, yes, he came from Shudra background. But as this verse and this purport, nobody has the birthright on being a Kshatriya. So couldn't Eklavya become a better archer or a good archer by training from Dronacharya? But Dronacharya could see that Eklavya is very envious of Arjun. He could be a good archer, but he could not be a Kshatriya. Not that just because he was born in a Shudra family, he could not be a Shudra. He could, but he didn't have those qualities of Kshatriya. So he would have misused his technical knowledge of archery. And that's what Dronacharya wanted to avoid that. So Kshatriya doesn't only mean good archer or good fighter. There are many other qualities of Kshatriya. And Dronacharya didn't see those. That's why also it is mentioned. Shudras are prohibited from studying scriptures. Nothing wrong with scriptures. And it's not that Shudras cannot make spiritual progress otherwise. They can. But studying the scriptures is not just studying the scripture, developing the qualities of Brahman. So developing the qualities of Brahman means one who has those qualities, then one can develop. They cannot artificially put those qualities in. So that's why Shudras are not supposed to study, because they can misuse this technical knowledge of scriptures. One is the knowledge and one is having the qualities and rightly taking that knowledge further. And this actually happened in Indian society with the caste system. Why? The son of Brahman became Brahman. Whether he had those qualities of Brahman or not, whether he understood the scriptures or not, whether he was teaching the scriptures further or not, whether he had those qualities of Brahman, which is, one is satisfaction, tolerance, patience. These are the qualities of Brahman. So they didn't have, and just because their parents were Brahman, father was Brahman, they became Brahman. But that's not how one becomes a Brahman. So this is where the Guru or Gurukul system was perfect. Now, school system, education system is, you go to school, everybody studies the same subjects, and then they're graded at the end of the year, how many marks they got. Based on that, then they make progress according to this education system. But this is not how Gurukul system worked. Guru and his followers, not the students, they would keep a mark or keep an eye on every student. And again, Guru was not just a paid teacher. They would be given dakshina, but not as a payment. He would not ask for it. So they would keep an eye on every student. And then they would realize what kind of qualities every student has. If somebody has qualities of a Kshatriya, he would be given the training and education according to those qualities to make him a better Kshatriya. It's not like everybody studies and same subject matters, same books, and everybody just passes the exam, becomes engineer, doctor, whatever. It's up to you. Teacher has nothing to do with this. But no, Gurukul system, that's why it was very, very scientific system. But because the gurus were also very well qualified. They were not gone through some kind of B.Ed course or non-qualified persons becoming a teacher, sleeping in the class, and the students also sleeping in the class. And they would be and nowadays they're more interested in tuitions instead of teaching properly. So see the huge difference, and that's why caste system came up, education system, real education system has gone down. We are following British system. It needs a complete overhaul, actually. Well, who's going to do it? Okay, coming back to our purport. Srila Jiva Goswami states how a non-Brahman can be turned into a Brahman by the association of a pure devotee. Prabha Vishnave Namaha. Lord Vishnu is so powerful that he can do anything he likes. Therefore, it's not difficult for Vishnu to change the body of a devotee who is under the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord. Now again, becoming a devotee is a different thing. One can be a Shudra, Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya, but everybody can become a devotee. That's a completely different realm. So that's why, in the end, all it is just become a devotee, go back to God, forget about Kali Yuga Dharma, Kali Dharma. Tare Shikhaila sa Vaishnavera Dharma, Bhagavad Adi Shastrera Yata Gudha Marma. On the basis of scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, which reveal these confidential directions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed Sanatana Goswami regarding all the regular activities of a devotee. In the Parampara system, the instructions taken from the bona fide spiritual master must also be based on revealed Vedic scriptures. One who is in the line of disciplic succession cannot manufacture his own way of behavior. There are many so-called followers of the Vaishnava cult in the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who do not scrupulously follow the conclusions of the Shastras, and therefore they consider to be apasampradaya, which means outside of the sampradaya. Some of these groups are known as Aul, Baul, Kartabhaja, Neda, Daravesh, Shani, Sahajya, Sakibeki, Smartha, Jata Gosai, Ativadi, Chudadhari, and Gauranga Nagari. So these are apasampradaya, means they are in the succession, but they don't follow everything. They have made up some of their own stuff. In order to follow strictly the disciplic succession of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one should not associate with these apasampradaya communities. One who is not taught by a bona fide spiritual master cannot understand the Vedic literature. To emphasize this point, Lord Krishna, while instructing Arjuna, clearly said that it was because Arjuna was his devotee and confidential friend that he could understand the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktosi me sakha chayati, Krishna says that. So it is to be concluded, therefore, that one who wants to understand the mystery of revealed scriptures must approach a bona fide spiritual master, hear from him very submissively, and render service to him. Then the import of scriptures will be revealed to him. It is stated in the Vedas, Yasya deve para bhaktir yatha deve tatha guru. The real import of the scriptures is revealed to one who has unflinching faith in both the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the spiritual master. Srila Narottam Das Thakur advises, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Hriday Karyaya. The meaning of this instruction is that one must consider the instructions of the sadhu, the revealed scriptures, and the spiritual master in order to understand the real purpose of spiritual life. Neither a sadhu, saintly person, or Vaishnava, nor a bona fide spiritual master says anything that is beyond the scope of the sanction of the revealed scriptures. Thus, the statements of the revealed scriptures correspond to those of the bona fide spiritual master and saintly persons. One must therefore act with reference to these three important sources of understanding: to sadhu, shastra, and guru. So they are the three sources of understanding, and they should all be in sync with each other. So then one gets a right knowledge. I guess I can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, ये जो अभी आप you were just saying कि that Brahmins should have the Brahminical का वो that what qualities should be there. My maid is Muslim. My maid comes from a Muslim family, and she's just a very young girl, 21 year old. And मतलब वो मेरे को ये बोलती है, she's pure vegetarian. The whole family is pure vegetarian. पक्के वाले मुस्लिम हैं वो, दैट ईद वीद सब कुछ करते हैं, बट प्योर वेजिटेरियन है. एंड मेरे जो ये भोग के बर्तन होते हैं ना भगवान जी के, शी ऑलवेज मेरे से नाराज होती है कि आप ये बर्तन क्यों साफ करते हैं, मुझे दिया करो साफ करने. सो आई सेड ये मंदिर के बर्तन है. मेरे में थोड़ा सा वो आ जाता है कि मैं इसको क्यों बोलूँ ना, मेरे को खुद करना है क्योंकि तो जगन्नाथ जी की सेवा मैंने ली हुई है तो मुझे करना है. एंड शी ऑलवेज से नहीं मेरे लिए रख दिया करो, आई विल डू दिस. तो मैं यही समय का पता नहीं कहाँ से कि शी मस्ट हैव बोर्न इन अ मुस्लिम फैमिली, और पूरा उसका जो है ना काफी कुछ उसमें आएगी, मंदिर में चप्पल उतार के आएगी, पूरा रूम में शी सेड नहीं नहीं चप्पली नहीं, यहाँ पे नहीं चलना, आपका मंदिर है ना पूजा के लिए. एंड मैं इस कनेक्शन में बोल रही हूँ कि अभी आप जो थोड़ी देर पहले बोल रहे थे कि दैट गुरु पहचान लेता है कि थोड़ी क्वालिटीज उसमें होनी चाहिए. दो शी इज बोर्न इन अ मुस्लिम फैमिली, बट उसमें कहीं ना कहीं थोड़ा सा ना बहुत मेरे को दिखता है सर ये लड़की पता नहीं कैसे वहां फंस गई है. बट उसमें बहुत है कि नहीं आपके यहाँ मंदिर है, पूजा होती है, एंड शी इज फ्रॉम अगरतला एक्चुअली. तो वो थोड़ा सा वो ये बंगाली और ये भजन वजन सुनती हूँ तो शी एंजॉयज दैट भजन ऑल्सो. तो मैंने कहा तुम नमाज वगैरह पढ़ते हो? शी से नहीं हमको कुरान आता है पढ़ना, बट मैं नमाज वमाज ज्यादा मेरे को इंटरेस्ट नहीं है, बट आप जो भजन सुनते हो मुझे बड़े अच्छे लगते हैं.
कुछ ना कुछ वही पिछले जन्म का होगा कुछ कनेक्शन.
हाँ
या उसको थोड़ा और प्रसाद खिलाओ और क्या.
हाँ मैं देती हूँ उसको, एंड शी एंजॉयज इट ऑल्सो. बहुत अच्छे से, कभी भी उसने नहीं बोला कि मैं नहीं खाऊंगी एंड ऑल. बड़े अच्छे से बहुत रिस्पेक्टफुली शी टेक्स इट, एंड बड़ा बहुत मतलब एक चीज को लेकर के थोड़ा रहती है वो इस चीज में. तो मुझे बड़ा अच्छा सा लगता है. मैंने कहा ये लड़की थोड़ी ठीक सी है. तो उसको देख के ना मैं अपने बच्चों को बोलती हूँ देखो कितने अच्छे से प्रसाद ले रही है दोनों हाथ करके, है ना. मैं कहती लेने दो ना.
अब वही मैं
ये
कहने वाला
ब्राह्मण
था,
ये
अपनी
ब्राह्मण
फैमिली वाले
फैमिली
नहीं करेंगे.
नहीं करेंगे.
अल्टीमेटली तो एवरी सोल इज सर्वेंट ऑफ कृष्णा ना. जीवेर स्वरूप कृष्ण नित्य दास. Every soul is. Every soul is divine. Every soul is servant of Krishna. Now, for some reason, she might have taken birth in Muslim family. We don't know.
हाँ हाँ मैं रामायण पढ़ती हूँ तो आ जाती है उस समय सुनने के लिए, बैठ जाती है, एंड शी कीप्स लिसनिंग टू इट. तो कुछ कहीं ना कहीं वो सोल भटकती हुई जगन्नाथ जी के पास आ गई है.
हाँ वो तो अब जगन्नाथ है ना, जगत के नाथ है ना,
हाँ
हिंदुओं के नाथ थोड़ी है.
हाँ नहीं है. नहीं है.
जगत के नाथ है.
और एक चीज और मुझे समझ नहीं आती प्रभु जी, जब हम हिंदू मुस्लिम करते रहते हैं ना, मतलब बड़ा ही अजीब सा लगता है. इट्स रियली सैड. क्यों नहीं सब लोग ये जितने भी अद्वैतवादी हैं, निराकारी, ये मायावादी, ऑल दोस, कांट वी गेट टुगेदर एंड नो वर्क ऑन दिस थिंग कि हिंदूज दैट वी आर हिंदूज, दैट्स ऑल. फॉरगेट अबाउट कोई भी आप किसी भी विचारधारा के हैं, बट हिंदू होना सबसे बड़ी बात है ना. वो एक चीज क्यों नहीं हो सकती है? ऑल दी सीनियर पीपल्स, चाहे वो इस्कॉन के हैं या चिन्मय के हैं या any other any kind of institution, why can't they get together and be a Hindu? That is the first thing to be a, instead of निराकारवादी. अपने आप में ही इतनी ब्रांचेस हम लोगों ने कर ली है ना, which is really sad. वो हिंदुइज्म का जो ना वो जो डेफिनेशन है वो खत्म ही हो चुकी है. हर आदमी अपने आप को मास्टर समझता है और वो बोलता है मैं ही ठीक हूँ. तो वो चीज को खत्म करने के लिए एक चीज होनी बहुत जरूरी है, दैट वी ऑल आर हिंदू, दैट्स ऑल. सेकेंडरी बाकी चीजें बाद की हैं.
But यही देखो ना, Prabhupada how strongly he writes against Mayavad philosophy.
हाँ हाँ
Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, na, Mayavadi Krishna Aparadhi. So now what to do?
मतलब रियली जो टाइम चल रहा है ना, इसमें तो यही एक डिमांड है कि ऑल हिंदू शुड बी टुगेदर एंड बस एक हिंदू होना चाहिए, बात खत्म। वी ऑल आर हिंदूज, फॉरगेट अबाउट द कास्ट, फॉरगेट अबाउट द
See, although Prabhupada wrote heavily in his books just to make us understand the philosophy properly, but his dealings with Mayavadis were completely different. He would always meet everybody with very nicely and with lots of compassion, actually. He always meets, but when it came to philosophical discussion, he would always make sure that person understands his point. So, as a person, he was always respectful to everybody.
No, I'm not saying that Prabhupada is wrong or something. देखो बस ये लगता है कि सबको इकट्ठे हो जाना चाहिए, कुछ भी नहीं सोचो, ये सब नहीं सोचो, बिकॉज जो हिसाब चल रहा है, जिस तरीके से चल रही है ना सिचुएशन, जो स्थितियां हैं, वो इस समय बस सिर्फ इकट्ठा होने में ही बेहतर है, बजाय इसके कि तुम शंकराचार्य से हो और तुम इधर से हो, तुम उस पीठ से हो, तुम इस पीठ से हो। ताकि जितने घाट में जाओगे उतने पंडित, उतनी बातें, वो तो कोई उसका कोई एंड ही नहीं। I don't know whether चलो एनीवे, हो सकता है कभी ये भी काम आ जाएगी, ये डिस्कशन भी। तभी तो हम बच्चे भी नहीं समझ पाते ना, वो कहते हैं इतनी सारी ब्रांचेस हैं, आप कुछ बोलते हो, कोई कुछ बोलता है, कोई कुछ बोलता है। ऐसा नहीं, एक होना चाहिए, इट शुड बी जस्ट वन, दैट वी ऑल आर हिंदूज, बात खत्म।
Yeah, but everybody is on a different level of consciousness. Realizations are different. So, but this is the beauty of Vedic system, that everybody is still allowed to make progress from wherever they are. कि किसी को ये नहीं कह रहे कि ऐसा नहीं करोगे तो I will kill you. ऐसा तो नहीं है. So this is the beauty actually.
Anyway, okay, Prabhuji, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Jai Srila.